I think as we look at the university as is today, every one of us would echo that. This is the Lord's doing. It is marvelous in our eyes. But of course, the Lord doesn't do things except through human instruments, His people. And I just want to say something about those who went before. The motto of the year, the 50th year, is rooted and reaching. But we need to remember that there were people who planted before the rootage, and that there were people who dreamt before the planting. Actually, I first heard of the plans for a Christian liberal arts college in British Columbia at a prayer meeting in Kyoto, Japan, where one of my colleagues pointed out the article in the Evangelical Beacon that mentioned the plans that a group of people had to begin a liberal arts college in this area. And I remember I said, somewhat facetiously, only somewhat, I would love to be professor of fish and game at that institution. Thinking of moose and geese and salmon and all of that. My wife says, really, I said wildlife. And there were times after we got started that it seemed a little bit as though that's the way it was. But unsung heroes, there were people, just a small group of folks that were so committed and saw the need of a Christian liberal arts college that against all odds, with no support and in fact negative encouragement from those in the church community who should have been supporting. But they had planned, they had prayed, they had dreamt, and because of them, we are here today. Unsung heroes. And then I have to say something about the initial faculty. You're probably aware that I had to challenge some of these folks to cut their salary in half, leave their home base, and cast their lot with an institution that, humanly speaking, had no reason to survive, to get started. We need to recognize them as unsung heroes. But then I want to say something about the wives as well, because I think it's true with every wife of our faculty and staff in those days. They were unemployed, they had no paycheck at all, but they contributed generously and continually in so many ways. Marge Friesen, with all of your work with the Mujo groups, I don't recall you were ever paid.
I think I got it. How much better? Maybe $1,000 a year. For the gas.
Outrageous. But in many ways, the wives contributed. And I have to say something about Muriel.
Yes.
Because I don't know if anyone knew, but through all the years that I was here, she did all of my confidential secretarial work, which was quite a bit. And she, you know, the promotional stuff came over my name, but really it was Muriel's doing. So I thank the Lord for her. Unsung heroes, not least of all our first students, you folks here. What reason did you have to believe that we'd make it? And our future depended upon the record that you would make when you transferred to senior universities. If you hadn't been the kind of people that would take the education basis here and go on to the universities and have a good standing and record, it would have been very difficult for us to continue. I salute you. So, those are the unsung heroes. Well, here we are, 50 years after day one. And as we said at the beginning, as we've said many times through the years, we say today with the psalmist, this is the Lord's doing. It is marvelous in our eyes. That, in essence, is all I have to say. Now, some of you thought I could never be so brief. You see how grateful you can be that I didn't make any notes to bring. But I have a question, as I indicated earlier, and I think it would apply to the people who were here maybe 66 or 67, maybe 68, I'm not sure. But I recall very vividly the aftermath of one of our chapel services. I don't know who was the preacher. My memory is very hazy. I knew that I was there, and I knew that I sensed in an unusual way the power of the Spirit of God. But I was called out of that meeting to my office for something or other, and I'd rather forgotten about things. Well, the noon hour came, and even though we had the new building with the food service and the dorms and dining, the Gensteads were still the chefs, so people always appreciated the meals. But I got a call from food service saying, where is everybody? Nobody's here. And I discovered that for that day and a good part of the next, virtually no one was coming to eat. Now, when young people forego food, something is going on. And there was a spirit of revival and commitment to the Lord, such as I have never heard of. I didn't see it. Anybody here from those years who has the faintest idea what I'm talking about? Shucks. But that was certainly the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in our eye. And as we look forward now on the 50th anniversary to all of the things that may come, I think beyond everything else that we could dream of, it ought to be that the presence and the power of the Spirit of God will always abide on this campus. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hanson. We hope that we all have a chance to thank you personally in the next day or so. But thank you right now for strengthening our memories and for strengthening our lives both today and those days so many years ago now.